for this.
This has been the E-Trade World Series pregame show. In Game 2, the New York Yankees versus the Atlanta Braves.
Turner Field still reverberating with the cheers for the 18 living members of the All-Century team and the dozen all-time greats who could be here only in spirit. And as the cameras pan those dugouts, you see a Paul O'Neill applauding a Willie Mays or a Chipper Jones or Ted Williams. The appreciative look on the face of Joe Torre, who played with and against many of those who are on the field tonight. It sets the stage in a beautiful way for Game 2 of this World Series. I'm joined by Hall of Famer Joe Morgan, who himself placed very high in the All-Century balloting. I know you had goosebumps up here.
Well, I did, Bob. I mean, if you're a player and you watched all these great players on the field, I think it's got to inspire these players to have a great ball game tonight. And all the players who are around Major League Baseball, it has to inspire them to play great next season.
This is the game that has the longest and richest history of any American sport. We got a taste of it tonight. Now let's go back to recent history. Just last night, a 1-0 lead for Greg Maddux and the Braves, top of the 8th. If Chuck Knobloch's bunt had been handled, the whole inning might have unfolded differently.
You're right, Bob, but I think what the Yankees showed last night is why they've won 9 straight World Series games. They know how to win, whether it be just a single through the infield, starting a rally, taking a base on balls, executing a perfect bunt, getting some help from the defense. They know how to win. Derek Jeter here gets a single to tie the ball game. A drawn-in infield allowed Paul O'Neill's ball to go through, which put the Yankees ahead for good. This made it 3-1 as Chuck Knobloch scored the run. And you can see they did this with a lot of small ball, not the Bronx Bombers we've all come to know and love. 2 sacrifice bunts, a couple of stolen bases, and even some base on ball help from the Atlanta Braves, which is unusual.
As someone once said, a nick here, a nick there, and pretty soon you're bleeding to death. Okay, now to tonight's game and the pitchers, Cone and Millwood.
Well, David Cone is going to be a little bit like Orlando Hernandez last night in that he throws from a lot of different angles. He throws a splitter, which Hernandez doesn't throw, but he has that sidearm fastball that is devastating. And Kevin Millwood showed how good a pitcher he can be in Game 2 of the division series. He pitches a one-hitter against the Astros. He beat the Mets to win his second postseason game. He could not hold the 5-0 lead in Game 6 as he left the ballpark. He will have to be very sharp tonight. You see, he's given up 13 hits in 12 innings. I expect David Cone to be sharp. Kevin Millwood is going to have to bring his best game with him tonight as well.
Cone, as everyone knows, works best on long rests. He pitches tonight on 9 days rest. Here is the Budweiser lineup for the New York Yankees, and it's the same as last night with the exception that Brocious moves up from 8th to 7th, and Joe Girardi, rather than Jorge Posada, will be the catcher. Cone is a decent hitter. He's had his moments at the plate and, of course, spent a lot of time in the National League. Kevin Millwood was really the best pitcher for the Braves over the course of the full season at 18-7 and 2-0 in the postseason.
He was very consistent, Bob, throughout the season. Let's take a look at the defense tonight. There you see Chipper Jones and Ryan Klesko have contributed to the Atlanta infield having 10 postseason errors. They've got some changes, Lockhart at second base and Guillen at shortstop tonight. So this is a little different infield than the one we've seen most of the LCS and here in the World Series for the Braves.
Interesting that you'd make changes at 2 such important defensive positions on the same night. The entire middle of the diamond is different. Flash bulbs popping all around the park as Rocky Rowe says that's strike 1. Rowe has the plate, American League ump. Steve Ripley of the National League at first. Darrell Cousins of the American League at second. Jerry Davis, National League at third. Jim Joyce, American League in left. Randy Marsh, last night's plate umpire from the National League, is in right. 0-2.
And that's what Kevin Millwood does best. He stays ahead of the hitters. He doesn't have an overpowering fastball. He's got a good fastball, good curveball, change, and slider. But none of these pitches are devastating. But his control is good, and he usually stays ahead of the hitters.
He's just 24 years old from North Carolina. Pitched well for them the previous 2 seasons, but never got into any postseason play. Line drive over Guillen's head. A leadoff hit for Knobloch. Big turn at first, but he'll hold there.
Knobloch, an excellent high fastball hitter. And Millwood gets ahead. I don't know if he was trying to waste this pitch or what, but he gets a high fastball out over the plate. And Knobloch ripped it to center field. High fastball right out over the plate. Good two-strike hitting there by Knobloch. And he gives the Yankees a start here in the top of the first.
Knobloch stole 28 bases this year. There was a time earlier in his career with the Twins where he swiped more than 60. Now here's Jeter, who has a 14-game postseason hitting streak, 2 for 4 last night. Ball 1 to him. The game time temperature is 49 degrees. The wind chill 39.
And Joe Torre brought a different style of baseball to the American League when he went to the Yankees. He will hit and run. He plays a National League style game in the American League.
Another base knock. Gerald Williams over to try and cut it off, and he'll hold Knobloch to second. Consecutive singles to begin the game.
I think both of the pitches will be up, and that's a problem for Millwood. He is not a high ball pitcher. That pitch is about belt high and on the inside part of the plate. And Jeter rips it over Chipper Jones' head. Good play in left field by Gerald Williams to hold Knobloch at second base.
So Jeter wastes no time extending that postseason hitting streak to 15. Here's O'Neill. His bases loaded hit through a drawn-in infield, snapped a 1-all tie, and gave the Yankees a 3-1 lead. Eventually, they won Game 1, 4-1. Called strike.
That's where Kevin Millwood wants to throw his fastball, especially to the right-handed hitters. He wants to stay down on the right-handers. Not as much so against the left-handed hitters, but you have to stay down against the right-handed hitters on the New York Yankees.
Sliced foul, 0-2. Bernie Williams, the cleanup man, will be next. Millwood checks the runners. And his 0-2 pitch is hit hard but foul. It got a piece of Randy Marsh, the umpire, down the right field line.
Well, Randy started in the foul territory and the ball kept hooking. It appeared that the ball was going to be on his right. Watch, it's on his right there, so he starts moving to his left, but the ball starts hooking, and it chases him and it finds him. But he seems to be okay. O'Neill had a good pitch to hit, he feels like. Pitch was up a little bit and in, and he pulled it foul. There's Randy Marsh.
O'Neill saying to himself, that's for any calls you missed behind the plate last night. Another 0-2 pitch. In the dirt and blocked by Myers.
One of the theories about pitching to the Yankee players is that you have to be able to come inside with hard stuff. That's why some of the pitchers in the league who have given them problems were Jarrett Wright, Bartolo Colon. They had good fastballs and they were able to pitch them inside. I really think you have to go inside occasionally to keep them honest, but if you do not have a good enough fastball, you better try to stay away from these hitters.
Nope, foul, still 1-2.
If you're the Braves, this is actually the last thing you wanted to see is your first two hitters get on base here in the first inning. Because your lineup has not been scoring a lot of runs, and you definitely do not want to fall too many runs behind early in this game.
That's why Bobby Cox has Guillen, Lockhart, and Myers in there to try to shake up the lineup. That's why he played his infield in with nobody out and the bases loaded last night. He thought his team couldn't score. Fouled off again. Even though they scored 10 runs in the game which clinched the pennant. If you take Eddie Perez, who was 10 for 20 and isn't in the lineup tonight, if you take him out, they hit 194 as a team against the Mets in the 6 games of the NLCS.
And in the game, they scored the 10 runs. They had a lot of help. They scored 5 in the first, a couple of hit batsmen, some errors. So they have not proven that they can sustain a rally.
Another line drive, another base hit. Andrew Jones charging it. Willie Randolph waves not rock home. He scores. And the Yankees are quickly on top.
Bob, the first 5 hitters in this Yankee order are special. I mean, they know how to hit. They know how to work the count. This is a curveball, not a bad pitch. It's out over the middle of the plate. O'Neill doesn't try to pull it. He just extends back through the middle, and he lines a base hit to center field. Andrew Jones comes up. He makes a good throw here in that he keeps it down. If he'd have tried to throw Knobloch out at the plate, Jeter would have been able to move to third base easily. So they keep the double play in order and keep the runner off third base.
It doesn't get any easier from Millwood. Here's Bernie Williams. A fastball high. If you believe the numbers, Williams is due. Here's a .342 hitter. That's this year. Last year's American League batting titleist. But he's never done much in the World Series. 0 for 2 with 2 walks last night. 2-0 the count. In the 96 and 98 World Series combined, plus Game 1 this year, Williams is 5 for 42 in World Series play.
Bob, I could hear someone from the Atlanta dugout yelling, where was that last pitch? And there you see what he has done in his last 2 World Series.
Or what he hasn't done. Hitter's pitch. And he fouls it off. Jeter, who singled, is at second. O'Neill, who had an RBI hit, is at first. And the 2-1 pitch. Hit back up the middle. Dean takes it. Steps on the ball. Throws to first. And that takes some of the pressure off Millwood. Jeter at third, but with 2 down now.
Very important at bat there for Bernie Williams, and a great pitch from Kevin Millwood. He gets in on his hands. 2-0. He went inside with a fastball. He comes back in. Again, he jams him, and he fights it off. He hit it back through the middle, but he didn't have enough on it to get it through because he got jammed. Ozzie again. To first baseman Ryan Klesko, and is now 2 down, but now at least they still have a run at third, but now he's there with 2 down, and not a bad situation if you can get out of this right now.
First one to Tino Martinez. Popped foul. Tino was 0 for 3 with a walk last night. He struck out twice. Torre's team has won 9 straight World Series games. They're 8-1 in the postseason this year. Up high, a ball and a strike.
And when you win 9 straight World Series games, Bob, that tells you how good an experienced team they are, because sometimes you have to win scoring a lot of runs. Other times you have to play small ball as they did last night. And other times you just have to play great defense and have good pitching behind you.
That one's in there, 1-2. They come to their feet at Turner Field in anticipation of a pitch that could end the inning and get them out of this, all things considered, with minimal damage. Martinez steps out of the box. Liner up the middle, base hit, and it's 2-0 New York. Four singles in the inning. All of them hit hard.
Well, he's been hurt with 2 2-strike breaking balls. Here's a 2-strike curveball to Martinez. He stays with it and just lines it right back through the middle for a base hit. It's not that it's a bad pitch. The ball is down. But Martinez stays right with it. Lines it back through the middle for a base hit. Very similar to Paul O'Neill's swing.
Both of them hit 2-strike curveballs. Ricky Leday takes ball 1. Fastball high, 2-0. Entering the game, Millwood led the majors in opponents' batting average.
Even better than Pedro Martinez in Boston by 0.03 of a point.
He's faced 5 hitters in this game. 4 of them have singled. Williams hit into a double play. A strike to Leday, 3-1.
And the other bad number on that chart for the Braves is that David Cone is 5th as far as opponents' batting average is concerned.
Full count now. Plesko is playing behind Martinez. He'll be off with the pitch. And it's popped out of play. Another 3-2 pitch. Taken for ball 4. Millwood's troubles continue. Now he'll face Brocious, who was 3 for 4 last night.
Number 18, Scott Brocious.
Leo Mazzoni to the mound. Longtime Brave pitching coach. He was a left-handed pitcher himself in the Giants and A's organizations. Never got higher than AAA in 10 years in the minors. One of the most respected pitching coaches in the game. Bobby Cox fretting about his offense. And now David Cone has been staked to at least a 2-0 lead. Let's look back at what Scott Brocious did last night.
Well, he had 3 base hits, 2 high fastballs, 1 to right field from Maddox. And then when he started a game-winning rally, hit this breaking ball. Pretty good pitch by Maddox. He went out and got it and pulled it into left field for a base hit.
Strike 1 to Scott, who hit just .247 for the season. But something about the postseason brings him to life. Look at that. Over 500 in the World Series. Strike 0-2.
Well, he's been able to get ahead of the hitters. He has not been able to finish them off. 2 strikes on O'Neill, 2 strikes on Martinez, 2 strikes on Leday. And they all reach base.
Let's see if he can close the deal here. Waste that one, 1-2. Terry Mulholland, a multi-purpose pitcher, long relief, situation guy, occasional starter, gets up early in the Atlanta pen. Two and two. Hit hard, Ian dives and can't get to it. The Yankees will have another run. A Brocious single makes it 3-0.
Well, he got ahead of Brocious 0-2, and again, he was not able to finish him off. He tried to throw a couple of breaking balls, get him to chase in the dirt. He didn't. Now he comes with a fastball, gets too much of the plate. Guillen tried to keep it on the infield, but it goes into center field for a base hit. You can see that fastball pretty much caught a lot of the outside part of the plate. And Guillen makes the dive, but it's 3-0 Yankees. 2 clutch 2-out base hits by Tino Martinez and now Scott Brosius.
Brosius, last year's World Series MVP, now 4 for 5 in this series. Joe Girardi slices it foul. Five singles in the inning for New York. They now have 11 hits so far in the series, all of them singles. But it's been effective. Up and in, 1-1. Cone may get to bat before he throws a pitch. Nub foul, a ball and 2 strikes. Being lit up here in the top of the first. Girardi lays off. It's 2-2.
Again, his problem has been that he hasn't been able to just finish the hitters off.
And Girardi stays alive.
And Millwood was actually scheduled to pitch Game 3 in Yankee Stadium, but according to the newspaper today, he said he was glad that he was able to pitch here at home in front of his fans rather than having to pitch in Yankee Stadium. And he got his wish, of course, because Tom Glavine missed his start in Game 1, and Maddox moved up to Game 1. So he moves up to Game 2.
Maddox pitched well, but lost last night. A call, strike 3. But the Yankees send 8 men to the plate in the first, and 3 of them score. We'll be back to Atlanta after this. Bobby Cox has made changes in his lineup, hoping to find some bats who can get the job done, and he'll need it now. Down 3-0 before they send a man to the plate. Andrew Jones dropped to 8th. It's the first time he's hit that low in the lineup all year.
And the compound their problems, you never want to give David Cone a lead because that allows him to use more of the plate. In the past, David has thrown a lot of pitches early in the ball game because he's trying to be fine and get through the first few innings. But when you give him a lead, it gives him more margin for error, and I think you'll see him getting more of the plate early in the counts. And Joe Girardi was the guy that caught his perfect game July the 18th of this year.
At age 36, Cone became the second oldest man in baseball history to throw a perfect game.
I can guess who the oldest would be.
And
he was on the All-Century team today. Nolan Ryan?
He's the oldest, I think, to throw a no-hitter. He was in his 40s.
But he would never throw a perfect game.
A perfect game, yeah, too many walks.
Right.
For a perfect game, the oldest is another member of the All-Century team, Cy Young, at age 37 in 1904 for the Boston Pilgrims. Let's check with Craig Sager.
Well, Leo Mazzoni did not give Kevin Millwood a pep talk. He gave him a lecture. He said, what are you doing out there? You're overthrowing. You're pulling out. You're trying to be superhuman instead of good.
Well, he certainly wasn't superhuman, and he wasn't even good in that first inning.
But, Bob, that could be a result of him. This is his first World Series game. I mean, you often try to do too much, you know, until you get relaxed out there. So overthrowing is something that probably happens as a result of this being his first start in the World Series.
Gerald Williams bounces it to short. Jeter charges and flips to Martinez.
Let's take a look at the scouting report on David Cone. You'll see him throw a few pitches that look like Orlando Hernandez in that he'll drop down and throw his Laredo slider. but he must avoid a high pitch count. And I think what happens now is that he has a lead. He doesn't have to be as fine as he was before. He'll throw pitches over the heart of the plate just to get ahead of some hitters. We saw the pitch there to Gerald Williams right down the middle.
Ozzie Guillen takes Walt Weiss's place at short, and Brett Boone's spot in the batting order tonight. Hitting second in between Williams and Chipper Jones. Just looking to take a pitch and distract Cone. It's ball one.
And we talked about Millwood maybe being a little excited, a little adrenaline rush there in this first World Series game. David Cone said every time he goes out there now, it's much easier to start a World Series game. He says he's more relaxed each time he goes out there. I don't think you can ever get the feeling that this is just another game, that you can get to a point where you can keep your emotions in check.
He drags the ball. Cone picks it up. He throws fly, and Guillen is on his way to second. Guillen may have had a plan all along. He bluffed the bunt and may have convinced the Yankee defense that he was just bluffing the bunt until he could take a strike. Then he dragged one on the 1-1 pitch.
Well, it's not a good bunt, but he forces them to make a play. Usually you try to drag the ball past the pitcher. You see he doesn't, but Cone doesn't have a good grip on the ball, and he knows he has to hurry, so he throws the ball away. Good job of base running by Guillen to get to second base. So he forced them to make a play, and he ends up at second base.
Does cold weather factor in?
I don't think so in that situation, because the ball, he grabbed the ball and then he lost it in his fingers. And he decided to try to push it to first base rather than re-grip it.
Here's Chipper Jones. Taking ball one. It's a two-base error. It is not a hit and an error. It's an error all the way.
Bob, I think the cold weather affects the hitters and will affect the pitcher throwing a lot of pitches. But I don't think it affects you when you have to have time to make a play at first base.
That one's in there. David Cone is one of the best big game pitchers of his generation. 7-3 in playoff and World Series competition combined. Chipper Jones with a slow bouncer. Not blocked. Let's watch the throw. He underhands it to Martinez, and that's the second out.
See what the 3 runs allows is for David Cone to be able to challenge the Chipper Jones in that situation. Here's Knobloch. He's okay when he's going towards first base, although he underhands this instead of over the top. That's a long underhand toss, but hey, he's getting the job done. And until he hurts the Yankees, I'm sure they'll play him continuously.
Here's Jordan with Guillen at third and 2 out. Taking strike one.
One of my first coaches, Spark Anderson, used to say, you can't hide middle infielders. They're going to have to make plays during the course of a series, and we'll just see how it goes for the remainder of the series.
Cone's 0-1 pitch. They checked down at first, and Jordan did not go around.
This is one of those Laredo sliders. He drops down and throws it sidearm. You can see it's well off the plate, and Jordan's barrel of his bat stopped very quickly, so he did not swing.
This one is poked to right, down the line, and foul.
That's right off the end of the bat. Same pitch slider away. Slider toward the outside part of the plate, just off the outside or just on. And you see Jordan just kind of reaches out and gets the end of the bat on the ball. With that kind of rotation on it, it was going to be very difficult for it to stay fair. Went foul by about 15 feet.
Cone's ahead of them, 1-2. A drive to left, well hit. Back at the track is Leday, and it dies at the wall.
Wind's going in, Bobby.
And it kept that one in the park and kept it a 3-0 game.
NBC's coverage of the 1999 World Series is brought to you by American General Financial Group. Live the life you've imagined. By De Beers, the world's diamond expert since 1888. And by Nike.
David Cone gets a chance to use the bat as he leads off in the top of the second. He's a 153 career hitter. He's never had a homer. 9 career doubles. That's strike one. And Millwood gets ahead of him 0-2. In the playoffs, leading up to this World Series start, Kevin Millwood was 2-0 with a save thrown in and a poor performance in a no decision against the Mets in Game 6. But still, he hasn't had a defeat hung on him since August 8th against the Giants. Trailing 3-0 here. Bouncer to first. Plesko takes it himself. Let's go back to the bottom of the first when Brian Jordan brought people to their feet here at Turner Field and listen to Ned Yost, the third base coach.
Well hit. Back at the track is Leday, and it dives at the wall.
Wind's blowing in, Bobby.
Go, ball. Go, ball. Get up. Get out of here. Dang it.
Dang it is right. That could have cut it to 3-2 and made it a ball game again.
And the wind is blowing in like from 11 o'clock across to 2 o'clock, and I think that did knock the ball down because when he first hit it, I thought he hit it well enough to get it out.
Ball one to Knobloch, who singled on an 0-2 pitch to start the Yankee first. 4 of the 5 singles they got in the inning came with 2 strikes on the hitter.
And when a major league pitcher gets you 2 strikes, he's usually able to put at least 2 of those 4 away.
Throw it past him, 1-1.
Not a good sign for Millwood, though. He's not a high ball pitcher. And that pitch is up. That's the 0-2 pitch that Knobloch hit was a high fastball for a base hit. When he's at his best, he's keeping the ball down and even getting hitters to chase pitches down and out of the strike zone.
Here's what the scouts say about Millwood.
When he's pitching well, he throws a heavy fastball and a hard slider. His curveball and changeup are pretty good, and it says he's a good finisher, meaning that he pitches well into the late innings.
And that means something different in baseball than it used to. Right. If you said that 15, 20 years ago, that meant he'd be around in the 9th. Now it means he gets you to the 7th or the 8th and gives your bullpen a chance to finish it. He threw only 2 complete games this year. Here's his 3-1 pitch. And he loses Knobloch.
Now when you ask me about the cold weather, Bob, I would say that maybe that's affecting Millwood a little bit on those pitches, that his hand is slipping off the ball because he very rarely throws a ball that high, 2 or 3 pitches in a row.
Millwood pitching in shirt sleeves on a very chilly night. But a few goosebumps are the least of his problems.
Well, after he threw the last ball to Knobloch, he went back and got the rosin bag. I've always felt the most important thing to keep warm is your bat when you're going to the plate. And you always try to get the bat handle warm before you get up there. Sometimes you put your gloves there, try to get everything as warm as you can because it's going to get cold by the time your at bat is over.
Knobloch chased back. The Yankees may be anxious to test Greg Meyer's arm behind the plate. Not going. There's a strike.
That was a little different pitch there. He took a lot more off of that pitch than he had been. This acts more like a changeup, but it's got movement. Jeter was way out in front, and he wisely held up.
2-1 to Jeter, who's 3 for 5 so far in the World Series. Had a sharp single in the first. Knoblauch away from first with 1 out. And Millwood's 2-1 pitch. Through the high fastball by him, 2-2. Full count. Do you send him now?
I think you do. I think everything's in your favor if you're Joe Torre. He likes to hit and run. You got Jeter up there. Knoblauch runs well at first base. I don't think you have a better combination on the Yankees than this combination for a hit and run situation. Knoblauch stole a lot of bases over the course of the last couple of years.
He goes. Jeter fans. Myers' throw is bounced there, and Knoblauch steals it.
Well, it works out for the Yankees in one perspective, in that he's still second base. Now he's in scoring position. You see, it was a hit and run. Well, he knows Jeter's going to swing if it's a strike, but the throw was way off to the left. Myers actually gets a good pitch to throw on, and he kind of throws it in the ground on the shortstop side.
So another RBI opportunity for O'Neill. He delivered a hit on a 2-strike curveball from Millwood in the first. Strike 1 to him now. O'Neill hit .285 for the season with 19 homers and 110 RBIs.
It's the first time he's hit under 300 since he's been a Yankee.
He has hit as high as 359 in a season. Inside to him. Mulholland began throwing in the first. Swing and a miss, 1-2.
And O'Neill upset with himself. He knows he went way out of the strike zone. This is not where Millwood wants to throw this pitch, but he gets good results. Way up, you see the target down and away, and it's up and over the middle of the plate, but he gets away with it.
This was the count when O'Neill burned him in the first. This time a bouncer to the left side. Chipper Jones has time, and his throw to Klesko retires O'Neill. To the bottom of the second, still 3-0 Yanks.
A reception from Leo Mazzoni, the pitching coach. He went down and greeted him and said, "That was much better, but we still have to find your groove, kid." Apparently, Millwood, as Joe pointed out, keeping the ball up too much, and he's now talking again with Leo Mazzoni. But they're much happier, as you can expect.
All right, Craig, thanks. Brian Klesko will start it. In the bottom of the second, he'll be followed by Keith Lockhart and Greg Myers. Cohn's first pitch is a ball. This is the 5th World Series start of David Cohn's career. He's gotten no decisions in 3 of the first 4. Although his World Series ERA is under 3, so he's generally pitched well. His World Series record is 1-0. The victory came in Game 3 of the '96 World Series in Atlanta against the Braves. A gritty performance in which he bested Tom Glavine. The Yankees were down 0-2, leaving Yankee Stadium and coming south in that series, and Cohn got them back into the series. 2-1 pitch, bounce to Martinez. Doubles it over to Cone to retire Klesko, who leaves in disgust. Our aerial views are courtesy of the Goodyear Blimp Stars and Stripes, based in Pompano Beach, Florida. At the controls, pilot Jim Maloney, not to be confused with the former Cincinnati right-hander.
Jim no-hit Maloney.
Yeah, he threw a couple of them, didn't he?
Are you sure it's not him, Bob?
Yeah, I'm guessing, but I figured if it was him, we'd know that. So it's a safe guess. Here's Lockhart. Used off the bench throughout this postseason. This is his first start of the playoffs or World Series. And Cone quickly puts him in an 0-2 hole.
And that's the type of curveball you want to throw. That curveball starts in the strike zone and breaks out. A lot of big league hitters can hit the curveball if it's a strike. But when you start it in the strike zone and it breaks out, that's when you were able to put them away.
Lockhart is one of those guys you pull for. He spent a decade in the minors, finally made the majors at age 30. As you might guess, when a guy's last name is Lockhart, his nickname is Spider. A little pop, and Brocious at third will take it. New York fans understand that. Not necessarily baseball fans, but sports fans. The Spider is for the New York Giants defensive back who was so popular a generation ago, Spider Lockhart.
That was perfect pitching here. He starts him off with a breaking ball for a strike. Now he comes with another breaking ball. He chases it out of the strike zone. And here's the key pitch. He fouls one up. Now watch this fastball up and in. See the target? Right there. After you set a guy up with some breaking balls away, he cannot protect the up and in fastball. So he set him up perfectly for that fastball that he finished him off with.
So now with 2 out and the bases empty, Cone works to the catcher Myers. 2-0. Myers started the season in San Diego. They picked him up as catching insurance after Javi Lopez went out for the season with a bad knee. Perez became the starter. Myers the backup.
And Perez can play tonight. He just had a blood blister on his hand. And Bobby felt he'd give him a day off and get another left-handed bat in there.
He walks on 4 pitches. There's Javi Lopez in uniform, but inactive since midseason.
And he is a special clutch hitter. I mean, he is a guy that you wanted back with the game on the line if you're the Atlanta Braves.
Here's Andrew Jones, pretty dangerous number 8 hitter. But in the postseason, as you see, he hasn't been terribly productive. Ball 1 high. Mulholland was throwing earlier. Nobody working now in the Atlanta pen. So if Jones reaches, Millwood will bat for himself.
And if you're Bobby Cox, you're probably saying, I'm going to need Kevin Millwood to pitch well in his next outing. We've got to give him a chance to find his rhythm here in this ball game.
Andrew Jones lifts one back of short. Jeter takes it. And after 2, Cone and the Yanks lead the Braves 3-0.
See there, Kevin Millwood has thrown a lot of pitches tonight, but he's thrown a lot of innings this year. Bobby threw 174 innings last year. He's well over 250, counting tonight. He's at 252. And at some point, young pitchers hit the wall. And I'm not so sure Kevin Millwood hasn't hit the wall here around 250. I mean, it's tough to build up your arm strength to that point.
Strike 1 to Bernie Williams as we start the 3rd. Well, prior to his start in Game 6 of the League Championship Series, where he couldn't hold a big lead against the Mets, Millwood had allowed 2 earned runs or less in his previous 12 starts, dating back to early August. But based on what we've seen so far, this could be his 2nd consecutive poor outing in a row.
Well, he just doesn't have the same velocity and movement on his fastball, and he definitely doesn't have the same control.
That would fit into the category, by the way, of a repetitive redundancy. It's his second consecutive bad outing in a row. Just wanted to hammer home the point.
But I knew what you meant anyway.
Thanks. And his 1-1 pitch to Bernie Williams is in there. Bernie hit into a double play that gave Millwood a chance to get out of the first with only 1 run scoring. But then Martinez delivered an RBI hit. Leday walked, and Scott Brosius singled home another run.
High fastball, another fastball, and a third fastball that he gave up to Brosius. In between, Tino Martinez and Paul O'Neill both hit breaking balls back through the middle for base hits. So he just was not able to finish the hitters off after he had 2 strikes on him in the first inning.
Hit sharply, diving is Lockhart, can't come up with it. A base hit for Bernie Williams to start the Yankee third.
When you get a hitter with 2 strikes, a lot of times you can make him become a defensive hitter. That's not happening to the Yankees here. High fastball again out over the middle of the plate. Not exactly where he wants to throw it, and Bernie just drills it back through the middle. Nice attempt there at second base by Lockhart, but it goes on into center field for a base hit. If you're going to pitch up in the strike zone, you better have some good movement on your fastball up there.
A called strike to Tino Martinez. The Yankees had 6 hits in game 1. They have 6 hits tonight. All of them singles.
And 5 of those 6 hits have come off of, with 2 strikes. But again, that's a sign of a good hitting ball club and a smart hitting team.
The fact that none of these hits have been for extra bases is no consolation at all to Bobby Cox and the Braves. He is managing his 100th postseason game tonight. Of course, it's a different game. A guy like Casey Stengel, who took the Yankees to the World Series year after year, only had the World Series. Cox has had the LCS, dating back to his days in Toronto, and the Division Series added to it since the mid-90s. But Division Series, LCS, World Series combined, 100 postseason games managed. He has managed more one-run postseason games than Joe Torre has managed total postseason games. Williams has to dive back. Not going on the 2-1 pitch, which is laced to left. Coming on, Williams dives, and he can't get it. Williams stops at second. Potentially dangerous play had it gotten by him, but he was able to keep it in front of him.
It's another line drive off of Millwood, and this one goes to left field. Gerald Williams gets a good start on it. Comes in, he makes a dive, and he kind of rolls over it right when it goes into his glove. Watch. Goes right into the web right there, and he rolls over it, and he can't hold it. He thought he had made the catch momentarily.
So it goes as New York's 7th hit of the night. Up steps Leday, who had a walk in the first. Strike 1 to him.
Well, if you're the Braves, you're at a point where if he gives up any more runs, you probably have to pinch hit for him in the bottom half of the inning.
He's due to lead off when the Braves hit. And Leday drives one to left center field. Williams and Jones in pursuit. It splits them and goes to the wall. 1 run home. And that's all that'll score on this play. Bernie Williams comes across. Martinez is stopped at third on the double by Ricky Leday with nobody out. And Martinez, not the fastest runner in the world. Willie Randolph decides to stop him. And Bobby Cox decides to stop Millwood's night.
High breaking ball from Millwood, and Leday goes the other way. And the one thing you should notice that these Yankee hitters are not trying to pull the ball. None of them. I mean, they're just going back through the middle and the other way, which shows their experience. And, I mean, they're just good hitters. Good relay back in. Holds the Yankees to 1 run. You see Leday pretty pleased with his accomplishment there.
New York's first extra base hit of the series finishes Millwood. 4-0 Yankees, and what a terrible time from Atlanta's perspective for Millwood to have the shortest outing of his season. In comes the veteran Mulholland to face Brocious. He moves him away with ball 1.
And the infield is playing in at least halfway. They're moving back and forth. And I agree, you cannot let the Yankees score another run easily here in the 3rd inning.
Considering the slumbering Atlanta bats and the quality of Yankee pitching, a base hit here could just about put Atlanta away. It's already 4-0. Brocious had an RBI hit in the 1st. Mulholland got in on him. A ball and 2 strikes. Terry Mulholland, just into the game, is 36 years old, well-traveled, was with the Phillies when they went to the World Series against the Blue Jays in '93, appeared in 2 games and won 1 of them. And he fans Brocious. Folks, you can go online to msnbcsports.com for more World Series coverage from NBC. An in-game webcast features continuously updated analysis from the Reds' Barry Larkin, who also answers your email during the game. Plus, check out an exclusive web video segment where Barry looks ahead to the keys for Game 3 on Tuesday night in New York. msnbcsports.com, the official website of NBC Sports. Here's Girardi, who struck out to end the 3-run Yankee first. Ball 1 high.
It's an interesting situation if you're Mulholland to pitch to Girardi, because you can't ever discount totally a squeeze play here in this situation from the Yankees because David Cone is on deck.
It's interesting because the Braves could gamble here, walk Girardi, count on Mulholland to strike Cone out, and maybe get out of the inning. The pitch out, they wanted to see if something was on, and it wasn't.
And that may be their game plan here. You might see another pitch out.
Girardi is an exceptionally good bunter for a catcher. He's ahead on the count, 2-0. 3-0. Martinez at third. Leday, who doubled, at second.
And Willie Randolph giving him his instructions as if to say nothing's on right here. Now Girardi asked again for the signs.
Willie Randolph, the Yankees' third base coach, might be managing somewhere next year. Milwaukee said to be interested in him, possibly the Angels as well. The 3-0 pitch. First, Mulholland wheels around. Nobody was covering. Girardi takes a strike.
I'm assuming that Bobby Cox just feels like he'd rather pitch to Girardi and try to get him out rather than walk him and then even strike Cone out and have to pitch to Knobloch.
3-1 pitch, chopped foul.
Pitch, a sinker, good sinker there from Mulholland. And Chipper Jones in foul territory. A lot of talking going on between Willie Randolph and Martinez at third.
The 3-2 pitch. A broken bat, slow roller. Guillen's got it. The runners will hold, and Girardi is out. The barrel of the bat flies all the way out to the outfield grass.
This is what you call really getting sawed off. That was a pitch in on his hands. Guillen charged it quickly, and he threw Girardi out at first base. Now, I mean, this ball's way in on his hands. Look at that. I mean, it shatters the handle of the bat.
How does that feel to a hitter on a night like this? Cone trying to help himself, slices one foul. Those bees must be buzzing in Girardi's hands right now.
When your hands are cold and you shatter the bat, I mean, it may take you 2 or 3 innings before you're over that feeling.
One and one. Cone grounded to first, his first time up. Well, he's making contact. 1 and 2. This is what you call a very bad night at a very bad time. The disconsolate Millwood watches from the bench as Mulholland tries to put an end to it. And Cone continues to battle it. You can tell Mulholland's been around a while. Flecks of gray in his beard. Check swing foul, still 1 and 2.
If Mulholland can retire Cone, I mean, the Braves are still in pretty good shape. They'll have 7 innings in which to make up a 4-run deficit.
But David Cone was saying before the World Series, I'm a pretty good hitter now. I'm happy to get the call in a National League city where there's no DH. Another 1-2 pitch. He hits it on a line to Guillen, who drops it. Dropped the ball. And it's a 5-0 game. Martinez scores. Leday to third. It should have ended the inning. And instead, it just gets worse for the Braves.
Well, Cone gets jammed, and this ball slices the shortstop. Looked like it hit off the tip of his glove. I don't see, he's got his glove out front. It hits right off the tip of his glove. He was never sure of it because you could see him put his bare hand in there.
The shot of Bobby Cox says everything you need to know. Ow, says David Cone, as the pitch was in on his fist, but the far greater pain is felt in the Atlanta dugout. Here's Knobloch taking a strike. Ozzie Guillen won a Gold Glove as the White Sox shortstop back in 1990. He's not a bad fielder. Walt Weiss has started most of the games of the postseason prior to tonight. Out of play, 0-2. So Mulholland comes in, strikes out Brocious, gets Girardi on a broken bat roller, and should have been out of the inning. But Guillen somehow mishandles a soft line drive. Now the 0-2.
When the ball is above your waist, you usually backhand the ball. He appeared to try to get his glove, underneath it with his palm up, and it looked like it hit right off the end of his glove, his fingers.
A called strike 3. Mulholland did well. Guillen didn't help him. 5-0 New York.
Temperature is 46 degrees and the wind chill is 34 degrees, and a lot of times that does affect play. But this play here with Oz again, I think he just got his glove caught in the wrong position. You can see he's having trouble with it by the fact that he's pulling his glove back to his body. Normally you just reach out and backhand that ball, but there was something in the flight of the ball that was bothering him all the way, and he didn't feel like he had it under control.
Mulholland bats for himself, a career 105 hitter. For Atlanta, the cold facts of the situation are much more troublesome than the cold temperatures. Trailing 5-0 against a team on a tremendous postseason roll. The Yankees were the favorites in the minds of objective observers coming into the series. They're on the verge of taking a 2-0 lead back to New York. Now, of course, the reverse was true in '96. And the Braves crushed the Yankees in the first 2 games at Yankee Stadium before the Yankees came here and somehow won 3 in a row. So it can be done, but it's just not the situation you want to find yourself in.
Well, tonight's ball game, the Braves have to hope that Mulholland can just hold the Yankees for 2 or 3 innings where they can try to make a dent into this 5-0 lead. They have the ability to come back because they do have some guys on the ball club that can hit the ball out of the ballpark.
Full count.
And remember, Cone is not a pitcher you expect to go 9 innings, and if you can get him in a couple of jams where he has to throw a lot of pitches in the first 4 or 5, you'll have a shot at him before they can get to the bullpen. And all you want to do is close the gap. When you reach the 7th inning, you want to be able to at least have it under control where one swing can get you back in the game.
Well, Mulholland works a walk. Joe Torre has fashioned his own protection against the nippy conditions with a towel underneath his windbreaker. But meanwhile, down at first base, Mulholland says, I don't need the jacket. I'm just fine like this.
Everyone says left-handers are a little different.
Gerald Williams takes a strike. The Braves still don't have a hit in this game. They have 2 walks, and Guillen reached on Cone's error in the first. In fact, the Braves have 2 hits in the series so far. And here's a soft fly ball in a shallow right. Paul O'Neill takes it.
If you're down as the Braves are, they find themselves on a different situation like they were against the Mets. You try to break the game down into thirds so that by the time these middle innings come around, you've put a couple of numbers on the board. When you get to the late innings here, you have to be able to tie the ball game with one swing. You can't expect to try to get 5 or 6, especially against the Yankee bullpen after the 7th inning. But you just want to get it where you can have a manageable situation where one swing of the bat can get you back in the ball game.
Ian rolls it foul. Trying to do something to make up for his error in the top half of the inning. That number 13 was unlucky for him tonight. He wears it in honor of his fellow Venezuelan shortstop, Dave Concepcion, your old teammate with the Big Red Machine.
And he made 13 work, and Ozzie has made it work most of his career.
Quickly 0-2.
And Bob, I must say it was an honor for me to have two of my teammates on the All-Century team, guys that I played with, and helped me to get, work my way into the Hall of Fame. Two great players, Pete Rose and Johnny Bench.
How did you feel about the reception accorded Rose? That floats outside, 1-2.
Well, I thought it was great because Pete has been away from the game so long, and I think the fans who are true baseball fans miss him.
Chipper Jones will be next. 2-2. There's Chipper, whose fourth-inning homer off El Duque last night represents all the offense the Braves have mustered so far in this World Series. Fouled off. Still 2-2. After last night, El Duque is 5-0 as a postseason pitcher. Maddox, the four-time Cy Young Award winner, with the defeat, goes to 500, 10-10 in the playoffs and World Series. Guillen punches it toward Jeter. Steps on the bag for one and completes the double play. A nightmare inning for Ozzie Guillen. Error in the top half. GP to end the bottom half. With the exception of the battery of Girardi and Cone, everybody in the Yankee lineup has at least one hit, and Martinez has a couple. Mel Stottlemyre, Yankee pitching coach. He and David Cone obviously happy with the way things are going. Roger Clemens, the Game 4 starter, says, that's right, just keep doing what you're doing. Whatever it is seems to be working just fine.
Bob, this game is really a lot of fun when you're winning.
And a strike call to Derek Jeter as we begin the top of the fourth. Millwood's performance tonight notwithstanding, you could probably make a case that looking at the 8 pitchers who will start the first 4 games of this series, that there may never have been a World Series with this kind of depth of quality starting pitching. You've got 13 Cy Young Awards. 5 for Clemens, 4 for Maddox, 2 for Glavine, 1 each for Cone and Smoltz. El Duque might have won one had he come to the major leagues sooner. He may win one yet.
That's a very good point because, I mean, these two pitching staffs are excellent, have excellent starters.
Hit in the air to left center field. This one's bound for the gap. Gerald Williams cuts it off. Jeter sprints for second, and he's in there ahead of the throw. He had 2 hits last night. He's 2 for 3 tonight.
Bob, earlier this year I was watching A-Rod in Seattle, and I just said to myself, how good can this guy be? And now I'm watching Jeter and thinking the same thing. I mean, he just seems to get better each and every at-bat. Forget about getting better each game. I mean, every at-bat he seems to have a better idea about what he wants to do as he just rips this ball up the gap in left center field. And very rarely does he hit balls at people. When he hits it hard, it's a base hit.
O'Neill is singled and grounded out. Called strike 1. To continue the thought on the pitching, the Game 3 pairing, 2 left-handers, Andy Pettitte against Tom Glavine. Glavine came to the park and threw a little bit today, then went home to continue his recuperation from the stomach virus. They do expect him to be ready Tuesday night at Yankee Stadium.
When that first happened, I thought it could have been, a blessing for the Atlanta Braves in that Glavine would start Game 3 in Yankee Stadium, where left-handers fare better than maybe they do here in this ballpark, and especially against the Yankees. And that would also allow him to pitch Game 7 if it goes 7. So I thought, well, that might help the Braves because, they're interchangeable anyway. Maddox starting yesterday, Glavine starting, and not a big difference between the two. I mean, they're both excellent pitchers. But unless they win this ballgame, it's going to be very difficult to get to Game 7.
1-2 pitch. A drive to right center field. Andrew Jones glides over, has it lined up. Jeter tags, heads for third, and he's in there.
That's basically, again, Yankee baseball. I mean, you say, well, Paul O'Neill made an out, but it's a productive out. It moves Derek Jeter to third base with less than 2 outs. And if you're the Yankees, you have a 5-0 lead. All you want to do is add one here, one there, and you know that you'll be able to hold on to the lead. Andrew Jones makes a good throw, but Derek Jeter got a good jump and slides into third base easily.
They're going to put Bernie Williams on and let Mulholland work to the left-hand hitting Tino Martinez. Here's more bad news for the Braves. With the exception of Game 3 of the ALCS, where Roger Clemens was knocked out early, and they lost 13-1 at Fenway Park against Pedro Martinez. With the exception of that one game, no Yankee starter has allowed more than 2 earned runs in any postseason game this year. They're 8-1 in the playoffs and World Series. They've allowed 10 runs total in their 8 victories, 13 in their 1 loss. Runners at the corners, 1 out. Infield looks for the double play, and ball 1 to Tino Martinez.
And Tino's not really a ground ball hitter. He hits a lot of fly balls and line drives. He gets underneath the ball. Mulholland, maybe with a good sinker, can get him to hit one on the ground.
He does to Guillen. Plays it cleanly to Lockhart. Has trouble getting rid of it, and then throws it away. When it stuck in his glove, it allowed Bernie Williams to get to him and jostle him a bit, and everything is unraveling for the Atlanta Braves.
Well, good job by Mulholland to get the ground ball, because, like I say, Tino doesn't hit a lot of ground balls, but he gets the ground ball right near the bag, which is where you want it. The throw a little bit behind him.
In truth, Williams did not get there in time. I thought he had, but Lockhart released the throw before Williams got there and simply threw it away. So Cox goes with a new middle infield, and they each contribute to this 6-0 deficit.
Well, what was happening is Joe Torre was arguing that Lockhart never touched the bag, but he did throw the ball. In his motion to throw the ball to first base, his back foot, his right foot, did drag the bag. He would straddle a bag to start with when he accepted the throw from Guillen. But as he threw the ball to first base, started his motion, his back foot, actually, he dragged it right across the bag.
Martinez didn't advance beyond first, and you can't assume the double play from the standpoint of the official scoring, so Lockhart is not charged with an error, but this should have been an inning-ending double play.
You can see he is not touching the bag there, but watch his right foot. See, he still has the ball right there. His right foot is on the bag, and that's what the umpire saw. But Joe Torre saw him straddling the bag when he made the catch, and he did not think that he had touched the bag when he threw the ball to first base.
Lockhart hasn't played much in the field of late. Bounced foul. It's 0-2. Last night, there's Brett Boone, the sure-handed regular second baseman. Last night, Bobby Cox took Ryan Klesko out for defense. Brought Brian Hunter in to start the 8th. It's the right move. Hunter's a very good glove man. He makes 2 errors in the inning.
Bob, the last 2 runs the Yankees have scored have been on, brave errors. A drop pop-up there from Ozzie Guillen, and now a botched double play. But you're right, they're not going to give him an error, but it's still an error in my mind.
Leday strikes out, but more damage is done. 6-0 New York. Another view from the Goodyear Blimp Stars and Stripes. Goodyear currently maintains a fleet of 7 blimps, 3 domestic and 4 international operations. Just in case you need to rent or lease a blimp for your party or function, they have 7 of them. To the bottom of the fourth. The Braves trail 6-0. They're still hitless. The largest lead the Yankees have blown in any game this year is 5 runs. Ball 1 to Chipper Jones. Way outside and high, 2-0. Three balls and no strikes. Ryan Jordan on deck, and then Ryan Klesko. That one's in there.
With a 6-run lead, David Cohn's main focus is just to try to keep the ball out of the middle of the plate, but throw strikes.
That's the third walk he's given up. Folks, now that the All-Century team has been selected, Major League Baseball and MasterCard want you, the fans, to name the starting lineup. Just log on to MajorLeagueBaseball.com, the official postseason site of Major League Baseball, to vote for your starting lineup. The fan starting lineup will be announced during Game 4 of the World Series here on NBC. Jordan swings on the first one, lifts it into right center field. O'Neill waves Williams off and takes it. So Jordan, who had driven Leday to the wall and left his first time up, flies to O'Neill and right here in the fourth.
That pitch is a little bit out of his zone. Watch, this pitch is up and in a little bit. He gets a little late on it. See, late on it. You can see him just trying to get the barrel of the bat through, and he doesn't get to it.
Klesko grounded to first in the second. He hit 21 home runs during the regular year. One in the playoffs at Shea Stadium against the Mets during the LCS. He had 3 home runs in the 1995 World Series for the Braves against the Indians. 0-2.
One of the adjustments El Duque made against Klesko last night was that he kept firing the fastball in on him. He jammed him 3 times. Klesko had hit 2 home runs off of him earlier this year when they played at Yankee Stadium off of 2 breaking balls. So he went just the opposite, and everything was hard in on Klesko, and he was very successful last night.
Ball 1, even though Chipper Jones, the runner at first, is very speedy. With a 6-0 lead, Tino Martinez is playing behind him, as you might expect. Called strike 3. Klesko turns away.
That's the breaking ball that you give up on if you're a left-handed hitter. Watch, it starts off the plate outside. This is what you call a backdoor breaking ball. See, it starts off the plate outside and comes back over the outside part of the plate. Watch where his glove is. He starts to reach out to get it, and then it breaks right back over the outside corner. Good job there by David Cohn,
who registers his first strikeout of the night.
And that pitch was set up because they'd thrown a couple of fastballs in tight on him. Let's go looking for the ball inside.
One and one to Lockhart, who popped to third in the second inning. The Braves have drawn 3 walks. Cohn has made an error. They still have no hits. Well, it took them a while to decide, but they checked down at third, and Jerry Davis says, yeah, he went around.
Well, we'll take a look again. Just watch the barrel of the bat. And that's what the third base umpire sees, is that the barrel of the bat goes a little bit too far. Take a look. Yes.
The 1-2, up and in. Cohn working rather quickly. His 2-2 pitch runs the count out full.
And he was trying that backdoor breaking ball again on Lockhart as he did with Klesko. This ball starts off the plate and then you give up on it if you're a left-handed hitter. And that one doesn't quite come back far enough.
Into second, Knobloch's got it. His flip to Martinez retires Lockhart. 4 in the books. Game 2 of the World Series. Yankees looking for a 2-0 advantage. From third watch, Bobby Cannavale and Eddie Cibrian.
Looks like they're Yankees fans, huh?
Either that or front runners. They go to the concession stand after someone establishes a lead. Brocious, Girardi, and Cohn in the New York fifth. 6 runs, 9 hits, and an error for the Yankees. 0-0-1 for Atlanta. Brocious sounded like he broke his bat. A little bloop down the right field line. It's in there for a hit. He wants 2. Jordan makes it to second, and Brocious is safe.
Well, he hit one right off the end of the bat, and it just shatters the bat. Mulholland must think he's just having bad luck tonight. Right off the end of the bat, shatters it, and the ball bounces and stays fair. By the time Jordan comes up with it, look at that, right off the end. And Brocious is running saying, stay fair, stay fair. And he hustles into second base with a double.
Maintaining his World Series career average at over 500. Girardi's 0 for 2. Looks to bunt. Gets it down. Mulholland grabs it and waits for Girardi and then tags him. Brocious to third with 1 out. This is interesting to sacrifice ahead of the pitcher's spot.
Right. I was thinking exactly the same thing. Girardi, pretty good hitter, but he pushes it to the right side. Nice play there by Mulholland to get it before it bounces. And he tags Girardi out. But again, I think Joe is just trying to make sure he adds 1 each inning, Bob, so that you never give the Braves a thought that they can come back in this game.
The infield moves in. Cohn must have Torrey convinced that he truly can hit.
And if you try to squeeze here and the Braves are alert to it, it's very easy to pitch out to the runner side.
He bloops it, and Guillen makes sure this time. And some mock cheers from the Atlanta crowd.
Tough crowd. Well, David Cohn said it worked the last time. I'll try it again. Odds again. Usually very sure-handed. But see, backhands this one and makes the catch. This is the time before. See how he tries to catch it with his glove facing up. There's the double play they tried to complete, and Jeter came in to score. They have given the Yankees some help in this ball game.
That they have. Here's Knobloch, who singled, walked, stolen a base, and struck out. Brocious at third with 2 out. 1-1 to the Yankee second baseman. As most of you know, the 5 on the sleeves of the Yankee uniforms is in memory of Joe DiMaggio, who passed away this spring. Two and 1. The black stripe beneath the number 5 is in memory of Catfish Hunter. The Yankees lost Joe D. and Catfish Hunter this year. Yogi Berra returned to Yankee Stadium during the same season. Another base hit for Knobloch. Another run for New York. 7-0.
For all of his defensive problems the last month and a half, Chuck Knobloch has really been swinging the bat well. He's raised his average up to close to 300 at the end of the regular season, and he continues here in the playoffs and the World Series. He rips a base hit to left field, a good 2-out hit, and the Yankees have been doing that in this ballgame, producing 2-out base hits to drive in runs.
Mulholland to Jeter. Derek is singled, struck out, and doubled. It may be grasping at straws, but remember, not only did the Braves win the first 2 games at Yankee Stadium in 1996, I think the scores were 12-1 and 4-0.
Exactly.
So they appear just as dominant as the Yankees do now. Roll to Lockhart. He flips it to Guillen, and they're out of the 5th, but not before the Yankees tack on another run. They've scored in 4 of the 5 frames in which they've hit.
And Keith Lockhart grounds it to Chuck Knobloch. Now watch it. Normally you pick up the target as quick as you can. He looks away, takes a few steps. Now he finds the target and throws to first base. Now look, see, he's not even looking at his target. Now he finds it and throws to first base. That is some kind of way of helping him to focus. And you see here, this is him in infield practice before the ball game. He throws the ball hard. A little erratic at times, but at least he's releasing the ball. And during the game, we see him kind of lobbing across the first base.
But those practice throws look pretty ugly, didn't they?
He's got a lot of work to do, and maybe just the off days in the winter, maybe everything will straighten itself out, because obviously it's mental, because Joe Torre says he doesn't have a sore arm. His arm is fine, so it has to be mental. And it's just something he'll have to work out.
A ball and a strike to Greg Myers, leading off in the bottom of the 5th. Remember, Chuck Knobloch won a Gold Glove as recently as 1997. Myers, Andrew Jones, and then likely a pinch hitter here in the 5th. A liner, and there's their first base hit.
Well, David Cone had a no-hitter going until this inning. And Myers hits it right back through the middle for a base hit. And it gives the Braves a start here in the 5th inning.
It also makes them, overall, 3 for 41 in the series as a team. Andrew Jones steps in. Taking a ball, George Fabregas, their 3rd catcher, is in the on-deck circle as a pinch hitter. So he'll bat for Mulholland. Two and 0 to Jones. Russ Springer apparently will be the next Atlanta pitcher.
Bob, you mentioned the Braves are 3 for 41. You can't keep that kind of pressure on your starting pitching staff. You can't expect them to go out and pitch a 1-0 game every time out. So you put a lot of pressure on your starters. If the Braves are going to win this World Series, they're going to have to score some runs, because I don't think anyone's going to shut the Yankees down completely.
Called strike, 3-1. Full count. Cone's control has not been razor sharp. He's walked 3. To Groshus. Knobloch for 1. Is his relay true? It is for the double play.
And that's when he's at his best. He just gets the ball and releases it at second base. This is a tough turn. He makes a good play here at second base. Watch, he throws the ball right where he gets it from. Now, Brocious starts it. He throws it. Watch, the throw's a little low. He reaches down, catches it down there, and fires from down there. I mean, that's a nice play there. Nice turn at second base by Knobloch. You'd rather have the ball about shoulder high, but he gets it low. But you see what he does. He turns it from down below, fires to first base for a double play. His problems are when he has time to think about the throw. There he just has to react. He usually does a good job when he has to make the double play on that type of situation.
Fabregas takes a ball. So there was a bit of hope here in this inning for Atlanta. Myers leads off with a single. The count goes to 3-0 on Andrew Jones, but just as quickly those hopes are dashed on the 5-4-3 double play. Fabregas spent most of the year with the Marlins. He had only 8 regular season at-bats as a Brave. He had 199 for the season with 3 home runs. 2-1. Count levels at 2-2. It doesn't figure to get any easier for Atlanta. Barring a huge comeback here, they go to New York down 0-2 and then have to face Andy Pettitte, who's thrown very well of late. Of course, they'll have Tom Glavine set to go. And he's no slouch himself. Fabregas strikes out. Second strikeout of the night for Cone. Through 5. 7-0 New York.
Good team. Here's the ground ball is short. Now Knobloch makes the play when he has to. He comes across the bag, gets rid of the ball. That's not an easy turn right there, but he gets it done. Now, when he goes into the dugout, his teammates are all there to congratulate him. Nice job, good job. I mean, they're all in it together. I mean, this is a close-knit team, and they're always trying to pump each other up. Look at that. I mean, every guy comes over and basically says, nice job, Chuck. And that has to help you. I mean, when you're struggling, whether it's as a hitter or as a defensive player, when you're having problems, they're always going to be there for you.
Russ Springer, who began his career in the early 90s with the Yankees, is the new Atlanta pitcher. The Braves are his 6th major league team. He was 2-1 this year with an ERA of about 3.5. And as you see, he's thrown well in the postseason. Here's his 0-1 pitch to Paul O'Neill. Popped out of play. Let's go to Jim Gray. Jim.
Well, Bob, Joe Torre must not think 7 runs is enough. He's telling all of his guys, Joe Girardi, who just left, and Tino Martinez, guys, we need some more runs. Let's grind it. Let's keep after it. Bob?
Interestingly, this is the first time that Joe's team has begun any postseason series, division, LCS, or World Series, on the road.
But the one thing you do, I think Joe feels that 7 runs are enough runs, but what he wants to do is keep his team playing the game. You do not want to sit on this and then try to start it up again on Tuesday in New York. Just keep playing the game the way it's supposed to be played. I think that's what he's trying to do.
2-2. Although this is not a close game at 7-0, and so late inning defensive replacements are less of a question. Remember that Luis Sojo is still not with the club. The Yankees are playing with 24 men. Sojo is in Venezuela. His father passed away a few days ago. A fly ball to left. Gerald Williams lopes over. And that's the first out in the 6th. Torre had said that he would use Sojo as a late inning defensive replacement, but with Sojo gone, he wouldn't use the youngster Clay Bellinger or scramble his infield in any other way. It's Knobloch all the way until Sojo returns.
And the way he is playing, at least he's, staying in the ball game. I'm not so sure that Joe will do it at all now. I mean, you've got a player here who's going to be with you for the next 3 or 4 years. You want to build his confidence back up.
Ernie Williams finds the hole by the diving Lockhart. It's his second hit of the night.
Tino Martinez has had a 2-out base hit to center field, and driving a run his first at bat. Then he hit a line drive that Gerald Williams almost comes up with, and he hit the ground ball. It should have been a double play. They didn't turn it, and so he gets an RBI on that ground ball as well.
So he's 2 for 3 with a pair of runs driven home, and he takes ball 1. Looking back at that play where they botched the potential double play, not only has Lockhart not played much in the field of late, but I would guess that Guillen and Lockhart haven't been on the field at the same time very much at all. Does that matter?
Yes, it makes a big difference. I mean, there's a certain continuity that you have to have between the second baseman and the shortstop. And actually, Guillen's throw was a little bit behind Lockhart. Normally, if you're working with a second baseman, he'll be able to make up for that problem that you just started. But Lockhart hasn't played a lot, and he wasn't able to overcome the bad throw.
That one's in there, 1-2 to Tino Martinez.
There's Brett Boone, who was, in my opinion, maybe the best at making the double play in the National League. He gets rid of Raw very quickly.
Back to Springer. Looks at second, throws it low. Guillen digs it out, but they don't get the double play that seemed a certainty when the ball was first hit.
I'm not sure the Braves can play any worse than they're playing tonight. And maybe that's a good sign. They're going to get it all out at once. This is a perfect double play ball. One hop back to Springer, and he throws it in the ground. Guillen tries to make up for his poor throw, but he's off balance, and he throws it away at first base.
So that prolongs the inning and brings up Ricky Leday.
And this is definitely not a typical Atlanta-type ball game. But you want to, like a lot of teammates will tell you, let's get it all out of here at once. Let's make sure that we have all our bad throws, all our bad fielding plays in this one game, and we'll start over on Tuesday and go from there.
Well, if they need to bottom out before that can happen, they're coming close tonight. Leo Mazzoni seeming to nod in agreement. 2-1. There's no animosity between these teams. There's none of the undercurrent of resentment that might have been part of earlier series around baseball. Bobby Cox and Joe Torre each have connections to the other organization. That's out of play. Torre, of course, was an excellent player for the Milwaukee and Atlanta Braves. Later managed the Atlanta Braves. Bobby Cox came up as a player in the late 1960s with the Yankees. His rookie year was Mickey Mantle's final year as an active player. Later, he managed in the minors in the Yankee chain and coached for them in 1977 with the big club. Torre and Cox have high regard for each other. The 2-2 pitch struck him out. After 5.5, 7-0 New York. City of Atlanta, at least that portion of which counts itself as baseball fans, not a very happy place tonight. Their team is staring at an 0-2 deficit in the World Series. They lost game 1, 4-1. They trail 7-0 as they come up in the 6th in game 2. David Cone has thrown 73 pitches to this point. His perfect game in July against Montreal was the only complete game he pitched this year. He's working on very long rest, 9 days since his last start. 0-2 to Gerald Williams. "18 living members of baseball's all-century team are in the ballpark tonight. Some of them may be shaking their heads over some of what they've seen in this game. Not from the Yankees, but from the Braves. Normally a fundamentally sound club that does the little things to help you win games, just as the Yankees do. But tonight has not been a typical Atlanta display." And down goes Gerald Williams, chasing one out of the strike zone. Tomorrow's an off day. Game 3 Tuesday night from the Bronx, 8 o'clock Eastern time. Andy Pettitte will pitch for New York, and Tom Glavine is slated to go for Atlanta. Ozzie Guillen's 0 for 2. Reached on an error and grounded into a double play.
And Bob, if you're a Braves fan, you realize that Tom Glavine is capable of beating the Yankees in Yankee Stadium, and so is John Smoltz. So you know that you're not out of this series yet. You still have the weapons to go into Yankee Stadium and win 2 ball games or whatever it takes there to get back into this series.
I meant to say Guillen laces one off Cone to Knobloch, who makes the catch.
Well, it hasn't worked out so far in this ball game by putting Guillen in, but I like the fact that they were trying to shake up their lineup to get more punch in the lineup. And you see Knobloch races across and makes the catch. Here's Knobloch. He got a good jump on the ball. Made it look easy.
Chipper Jones bats with the bases empty and 2 out. Oh for 1 with a walk tonight. 2-0 the count. With Brian Jordan due next. Taking all the way, and that's a strike. Pitch, a sky-high pop. Roches behind third to take it. The Yankee starter last night, Orlando Hernandez, allowed 1 hit through 7 innings of work. Cone has doled out 1 hit through 6. Yankees have 7 runs on 12 hits. Joe, the best pitch thrown by a Brave tonight might have been the one thrown by Hank Aaron, who threw out the ceremonial first pitch.
Well, everything has gone downhill for the Braves since then. But again, they may be able to get this out of their system tonight. Play the worst game that you can possibly play, and then you can only go up. But I still think that the Braves have enough confidence in their ability that they're still going to make this a good series.
Bottom of the order in the top of the 7th. Roches, Girardi, and then Cone is due. Roches has singled and doubled in 3 at-bats. Millwood was the starter. He wasn't around long. It was his shortest outing of the season, 2 innings plus. By the time Millwood left, it was 4-0. Before that inning was concluded, it was 5-0. looking at his first defeat since August 8th. A drive to center. Andrew Jones going back, and he'll run it down. From the producers of Merlin and the Odyssey.
NBC November 7th. A forbidden love leads to an epic battle to save the Earth. Leprechauns coming to NBC November 7th.
So that would be Leprechauns on November 7th. Set your VCR, Joe.
I'll probably be at home watching.
Baseball season's over. You deserve a rest. Girardi. He's 0 for 2 with a sacrifice bunt tonight. The Braves are looking for Russ Springer to suck up some innings here. Trailing 7-0. Pitcher spot not due to hit for Atlanta unless they put a lot of men on base in their half of the inning. Ryan Jordan coming in toward the line into foul ground along with Lockhart. And neither one can come up with it.
Tough play there, right into no man's land. They both gave it a great effort. Jordan came a long way from right field to try to get it, and Lockhart tried to get the angle on it. You watch, they both get there about the same time, and the ball bounces between them.
So that was one time the Spider didn't catch the fly.
As in Spider Lockhart, right?
For those of you just joining us, that's correct. 2-2. Another chance for Andrew Jones, who always makes it look so easy. That's the second out. He has drawn favorable comparisons to the likes of Willie Mays and Joe DiMaggio when it comes to glove work in center field. What do you think?
Well, I think Ken Griffey Jr. is still maybe, as good an outfielder as you're going to find in the big leagues right now. And I think Willie Mays is the greatest center fielder I've ever seen. Andrew Jones is very, very good.
Young Jones won his first Gold Glove last year.
And maybe 3 or 4 years from now, I will say that he's as good as Junior. But at this point, I still think Junior's the best center fielder in the game. Barry Bonds thinks Andrew Jones is.
Cone lines one to center, and Jones almost misplayed it, but he records all 3 putouts in the inning. In addition to his pitching, Cone has looked respectable at the plate.
Coverage of the 1999 World Series is brought to you by John Hancock, official sponsor of Major League Baseball, by Chevrolet Trucks, the most dependable, longest-lasting trucks on the road, and by Daytech Online. The rules of online trading are changing.
Stretch time in Atlanta, but it's quite a stretch to see the Braves getting back in this game. Not the way Cone is pitching, and not the way their bats have been slumbering for several games now. The 10-9 Game 6 in the LCS notwithstanding, this is a team hitting well beneath 200 in the League Championship Series and the World Series combined. They have 3 hits in this World Series through 15 innings. Ryan Jordan has flied out twice tonight.
Bob, when we talked at the beginning of this series, we said the Braves bats were going to have to put some runs on the board. Because as good as the Atlanta staff is, you're not going to shut the Yankees down completely because they have so many ways of scoring runs. They can hit the ball out of the ballpark. They can play small ball. They can steal bases. They can hit and run. They just do a lot of things to manufacture runs. So you're going to have to score some runs to beat them. And so far, the Braves just have not been able to mount any consistency to their offense.
Don Baylor, the Atlanta hitting coach. Texas had one of the most potent offenses in baseball. They couldn't figure the Yankees out in 3 games. The Red Sox, by and large, didn't score much except for the one game against Clemens when they shelled him at Fenway. And that was probably the game where they needed at least with Pedro Martinez pitching. So the Braves have company. Clemens will pitch game 4 at Yankee Stadium against John Smoltz. The 2-2 pitch. Full count to Jordan. Speaking of Clemens, he had an excellent outing in the division series at Texas. And then, of course, the poor showing at Fenway Park.
And Bob, I think the country's starting to realize that maybe this New York Yankees starting staff is a lot better than people give it credit for being.
Jordan walks to start the 7th. That's the 4th walk issued by David Cone. And again, our overhead shots are courtesy of Goodyear. The blimp is the Stars and Stripes. It was 1926 when Goodyear began its first commercial blimp operation with a blimp named the Pilgrim.
When you watch the New York Yankees pitching staff, it doesn't look like collectively that they do anything special, except they seem to be able to stay off the big part of the bat. You know, whether that was against Texas, mostly against Boston, and especially here against the Braves. It seems that they're either jamming them or they're out in front, but they're not getting the ball on the big part of the bat. And that's what pitching is all about, keeping hitters off balance.
Combs 1-1 to Klesko, and he's ahead of him 1-2.
But even that pitch there, Bob, you can see it started on the inside part of the plate, and by the time it got to him, it's off the plate. Now, how do you get to this pitch? See what I mean? That ball's off the plate.
High fly ball back of second base. Knobloch has it.
Let's take a look at David Cone as he's worked his way here into the 7th inning. Look at where that ball is. Out away from him. He hits it off the end of the bat. Off the end of the bat again. Look at how he's reaching. And that beautiful backdoor breaking ball. Look at that. Off the plate again. I mean, he is staying out of the middle of the plate. They're either reaching across the plate to try to catch up with the ball, or he's in under the hand. So he's staying out of the middle of the plate, and they're not getting good swings.
Keith Lockhart's 0 for 2. And has had a couple of misadventures in the field. Ball 1 to him. Lockhart's a good, solid bench player. Excellent pinch hitter. Can play second base for you as well. But he, like the rest of the Braves, hasn't had much success tonight. 3-0. Kevin McGlinchey, last seen at the end of the 15-inning marathon, Game 5 of the LCS at Shea Stadium, begins to get ready in the Atlanta bullpen. And Lockhart walks. Still nobody throwing in the Yankee bullpen. Stottlemyre removes the towel to go to the mound.
Well, I think what you'll see is David Cone will let him know whether he thinks he's tiring. When you're a veteran pitcher, you have a good rapport with your pitching coach, and you'll let him know that you're starting to tire a little bit, or I feel good, I'm just missing my spot, and you'll let him know whether he needs to get somebody up in the bullpen. And I guess they do. Ramiro Mendoza goes down to get loose in the bullpen.
Next hitter is Greg Myers, who has the only hit yielded by Cone in the 6th inning. He hit it hard back through the middle. Actually, the hit came in the 5th. It said 6th inning on the screen, but it came to lead off the 5th.
And what's interesting, Bob, is that we've seen the Yankee hitters go back through the middle and take advantage of the Braves pitchers. Myers is the only one that's actually hit the ball back through the middle, trying to go that way.
As well as Cone is pitching tonight, it's worth mentioning there's at least a chance that this is his last game as a Yankee. It's possible the rotation won't come around to him again in this series, and his contract is up at the end of the year. He makes in the vicinity of $8 million a season, and the Yankees have to decide if they want to reinvest that kind of money in him. What with the money it will take to sign a Derek Jeter, a Mariano Rivera, the other players on their roster. Even the Yankees don't have an unlimited budget.
You sure?
He's got a very high payroll. I don't think it's unlimited.
Huh?
Do you hear the story about Sarah Ferguson, the Duchess of York? She met George Steinbrenner at some function in New York this year, and she said to him, "I don't know who you are, but you're obviously a very successful man. Good luck in whatever it is you do." Myers lifts it to center. Bernie Williams goes back to take it. Brian Jordan tags, advances to third. Lockhart remains at first with 2 out.
Well, Bob, I think there are a lot of decisions to be made. I think David Cone has to make a decision on how important it is for him to remain a Yankee. And maybe he's willing to take a pay cut to remain in New York. And, as long as they're going to accommodate him as far as the rotation is concerned. So I think that's a situation where I think both parties have to look at it and try to work it out. Because I think David Cone wants to remain in New York.
Yeah, everything's relative. You're making $8 million a year. You take a pay cut. They still don't have to throw any benefits for you. Ball 1 to Andrew Jones.
And then the team can say, well, we do not have an unlimited budget. We do make some cuts here and there. But as you said, Derek Jeter is in line for a large pay raise.
That's a strike, 1-1.
Mariano Rivera is in the same situation. They were both arbitration cases together.
Brett Boone is on deck to pinch hit if Andrew Jones reaches. 2 balls and a strike. Cone has walked 5. He himself has made an error, but the Braves still have only 1 hit. 3-1 the count.
And Andrew Jones has a chance here to get the Braves right back in the ball game.
One pitch away from loading the bases here in the 7th. But that's in there, full count.
There's a good pitch there by David Cone. 3-1. Andrew Jones probably looking for a fastball middle of the plate in, and Cone hits the outside edge. Again, he's trying to stay away from the big part of the bat.
And a called strike 3.
Cone pitches 1-hit ball through 7, as El Duque did last night. He's got some company. Listen.
Come, baby. Yeah, coming. You're the first dude to come and see me in 2 days. It's all right.
It's a fact. They've scored only 1 run, and that was Chipper Jones, who trotted past him after his homer against Orlando Hernandez. Hernandez pitched 7 innings of 1-hit ball last night, and actually at that point was trailing 1-0. Cone, who's been plenty good, but not nearly as overpowering as Hernandez was last night, has a one-hitter going with 5 walks thrown in. He was staked to a 3-0 lead before he ever took the mound, and he leads 7-0 now. Chuck Knobloch pops one to the right side. Ryan Klesko goes into foul ground to make the catch. A couple of changes for the Braves. They've got a new center fielder in a double switch. Otis Nixon is in. Andrew Jones made the last out in the bottom of the 7th. So Jones is out of the game. And Nixon will hit 9th and lead off in the last of the 8th. The new pitcher is Kevin McGlinchey, and he's in the 8th spot on the order.
I think it's a great opportunity for Bobby Cox to get McGlinchey into a World Series game as quickly as possible. And then he'll know that he can count on him later in the series.
Even though McGlinchey took the loss in Game 5 on Robin Ventura's Grand Slam single, his pitching coach Leo Mazzoni says of him, he is absolutely not scared. He wants the ball. He wanted it that night, and he wants it the next time. Roll to the right side. Klesko comes up with it and beats Jeter to the bag. Now, scheduled after the game on most of these NBC stations, it's your late local news. And for those of you who'd like to continue with the World Series, we'll have a post-game report on CNBC immediately following the game. Hannah Storm, Barry Larkin, Greg Sager, Jim Gray, Joe Morgan, and I will all be part of that program. Highlights and a look back at Game 2, a look ahead to Game 3. That's on CNBC immediately following the game. A strike to Paul O'Neill. John Smoltz, the Game 4 starter, he's just getting some work in. They have used him in relief in this postseason, but not tonight, not in this situation.
Well, Bobby has to be careful simply because Glavine is supposed to pitch Game 3, but what if he can't go in Game 3? You want to have a rested John Smoltz to take his place. Glavine is not available for Game 3.
O'Neill's 1 for 4. Tips it back into Myers' glove for strike 2. Here's Glavine. Earlier today, late this afternoon, throwing. Then, after getting this bit of work in, he went back home and he's watching the game on television. He began feeling ill on Friday with that stomach virus, was unable to answer the bell for Game 1. Maddox took his start. He is expected to start on Tuesday. He was feeling better already today, and there's every reason to expect that with a day off tomorrow, he'll be okay for Game 3. McGlinchey didn't feel ill at the start of the game. He might have by the time he left, to say Millwood, as he looks on from the dugout. Full count to O'Neill. With 2 out and nobody on in the top of the 8th, and the Yankees leading it 7-0. And he walks it. When a masterful performance by Greg Maddox went to waste last night, the Braves hoped that Kevin Millwood, who over the course of the year at 18-7 had been their best pitcher, this despite the presence of past Cy Young Award winners like Maddox and Glavine and Smoltz on their staff. They hoped that this kid could get them even tonight, and he just didn't have it. Bernie Williams is 2 for 3 with an intentional walk. Call strike 1. What does it say to you that Millwood, after being knocked out in the 3rd, has stayed in the dugout with his teammates? He hasn't gone back to the clubhouse and showered and dressed.
Well, I think he's watching the Yankee hitters. He thinks he's going to get another opportunity to pitch, so he wants to watch and see if McGlinchey or even Mulholland, anyone was able to find a weakness in some of these hitters. I mean, you can watch and see from the bench, you can see when a guy's a little late on a fastball in or whether he's early on a breaking ball in. You can see those things very well from the bench.
And the 0-2 pitch. Way high and outside. Foul to the screen, still 1-2. If the Yankees win this game, they will be 20-3 in the playoffs and World Series over the last 2 years. That's against the best competition baseball can throw at them.
Even more impressive, they would have won the last 10 World Series games they played in.
How to play again. On the other hand, the Braves are looking at a 6-game World Series losing streak.
And it's hard to imagine that you could have a 6-game losing streak when you have Mattis, Glavine, and Smoltz as your top 3 pitchers.
Well, they lost one of those games 1-0. Another 3-2 in Game 6 in '96 when Jimmy Key beat Maddox. Well-pitched game last night. It came apart on them in the 8th inning. Off the outside edge, 2-2. Andres Galarraga, a spectator all season long after the diagnosis of cancer, but he's responded well to treatment, and they expect he'll be able to resume his career next spring. Bernie Williams rolls it back up the middle for his 3rd hit of the night.
One thing the Yankee hitters do when they get 2 strikes, it seems that they shorten up their swings and make contact. We saw a couple of big swings earlier in this at bat. See how he just guides it back through the middle? They shorten their swings and put the ball in play. Good hitting there. You can see him almost guide that ball right back through the middle. Earlier in the at bat, you could see him having free and easy swings. But when they get 2 strikes, they know how to hit with 2 strikes. And we've seen that a lot in this ball game tonight, that they've been able to produce with 2 strikes on them. And a lot of times the hitting instructor, Chris Chambliss, preaches, you know, shorten up on your swing and go back through the middle. And we've seen them do that very successfully tonight.
Like the Braves hitting coach Don Baylor, Chambliss has been mentioned in connection with a couple of managerial openings. A strike to Martinez. The Yankees have 13 hits to Atlanta's 1. 1-1. Kevin McGlinchey on the mound finds himself in the World Series in his rookie year in the majors. He went 7-3 this season, and his ERA was under 3. He's 22 years old, 6'5" and 220. And he's ahead of Martinez, a ball and 2 strikes.
Baseball is a funny game, Bob. You're talking about him being as a rookie, being in the World Series his first year in the Major League. Ernie Banks, one of the all-century players, played his entire career with the Cubs and never reached the World Series. And the great Ted Williams only played in 1. So you're pretty lucky if you get a chance to play in several World Series during your career.
And he fans Martinez, who tipped it back into Meyer's glove. To the bottom of the 8th. It's all New York tonight. For away, Mel Stottlemyre, after conferring with David Cone, you see him make that signal to Joe Torre, indicating that Cone is done. And in fact, he heads for the clubhouse. 7 innings, 1 hit, 5 walks, 4 strikeouts for Cone. He threw 109 pitches while he was in there. And now it's Ramiro Mendoza.
And he has really been pitching well once he got on track. And everyone on the Yankees says as long as he stays on top of the ball, he has an excellent sinker. When he drops down a little bit, the ball seems to straighten out.
He'd be in the starting rotation of almost any other team. Maybe not the Braves, and obviously not the Yankees, but most other clubs in the big leagues. He was the winner of Game 3 at San Diego in last year's World Series. For the regular season, he went 9-9 for New York. The first man he faces is 40-year-old Otis Nixon, who had only 151 plate appearances this year and batted .205. He chops it over the mound. Knobloch rolls, throws, bounces it, and Nixon beats it out. Well, what's up with that, Joe?
Well, he made a play like that against Boston where he jumped up in the air and made a perfect throw to first base. But this one he throws into the ground and it just doesn't work. It's a tough play because Otis Nixon's very fast down the line. And watch, he makes the catch. He wants to get rid of it quickly. He jumps in the air, and his throw lands about halfway, but it doesn't get to first base in time. As you can see, Nixon beats it out.
And it scored an infield single. Nixon is still plenty fast.
Watch, Knobloch wants to jump up in there and throw the ball as he did in the Boston series and get the run at first. He actually makes a one-hop throw right on target. But he was actually running away from first base, so he didn't get as much on the throw as he wanted.
So in one swing, the Braves now have as many hits off Mendoza as they did against Cone in 7 innings. 1-2 to Gerald Williams. Tapped foul at the plate.
And you'll see a lot of ground balls and top balls when Mendoza is throwing at his best because he has such a heavy sinker. You hit the top of the ball, as we saw Nixon do, and you see Gerald Williams on top of a couple of pitches.
Gerald Williams got the big double off Kenny Rogers that started the 11th inning rally that won the pennant for them, and Williams scored the pennant-winning run. But apart from that, he hasn't been on base much lately at the top of the order. A bounce in a second. Knobloch shovels to Jeter, and Williams hits into a 4-6-3 double play. One reason, certainly not the sole reason, but one reason why the Braves are struggling to score is that their leadoff man is 2 for his last 29.
Watch Knobloch. Perfect feed to Jeter. He comes across, and that's the way you make a double play. 4 to 6-3. Perfect timing there. You can tell they've worked together a lot on that particular play.
Ozzie Guillen taps it back to Mendoza. Just like that, the Braves are finished in the 8th. Girardi is the only Yankee non-pitcher without a hit tonight. He's 0 for 3 with a sacrifice. It was tonight's Yankee starter, David Cone, who began the turnaround for them in '96 by beating Glavine in Atlanta in Game 3. Then in Game 4, the Yankees trailed 6-0 and came back to win. That's the game where Leyritz had the big home run off Mark Wohlers. Then in Game 5, Andy Pettitte, with relief help from John Wetland, wins 1-0 over Smoltz. Then Jimmy Key outduels Maddox. The Yankees win Game 6 at home. No one thought anything like that could happen.
And the 4-0 defeat by Maddox in Game 2 of that series is the last time the Yankees have lost the World Series game. Jimmy Leyritz and the Rocket.
2-2 to Girardi. Paul O'Neill, you wonder how much longer he'll be the Yankees right fielder. He has been terrific for them, both in terms of production and his intense presence. Bounce to third, short hop by Chipper Jones. Can he find the handle in time? Yes. So he avoids the E5 by recovering on this.
Well, he charges to get it on the short hop. Can't make the short hop, but he stays with it, grabs it, and he fires a strike to first base. That's what you call staying with a ground ball, and you see the throw does beat Girardi to first base.
Now Mendoza, who has one career plate appearance, makes contact. Lockhart takes it and throws it out. To the bottom of the ninth, 3 outs from a 2-0 lead in the series. Thanks again to the crew of the Goodyear Blimp Stars and Stripes for the view of tonight's game they've provided from overhead. 51,226 were here at the start. Less than half of that remaining as the Braves come up in the bottom of the ninth, trailing 7-0. The All-Century team was honored before tonight's game. It's doubtful that Lefty Grove, Christy Mathewson, Sandy Koufax, or Bob Gibson could have held the Braves any more in check than Yankee pitching has through the first 2 games.
Might have a few more strikeouts.
There are a lot of zeros on that sheet. Two hits last night, 2 hits so far tonight. Their only run on Chipper Jones' homer. Of the 2 hit tonight, 1 was hit sharply, a line single to center by the catcher Greg Myers. The other was an infield hit by Otis Nixon. And there's their 3rd hit as Chipper Jones takes one through the box.
Well, Mendoza gets a sinker up a little bit, and Chipper takes advantage of it and hits it right back through the middle. So that one is up, about belt high, and he rips it back through the middle for a base hit.
Strike 1 to Jordan. He's flied out twice and walked.
So far in this series, first 2 games, Bob, they have pitched Brian Jordan away, and they've had him reaching for pitches. We've seen him hit a couple of balls off the end of the bat and just not be able to have a good swing at a pitch. Sometimes when they're staying away from you, I think you have to force them to do something different. Maybe move up a couple of inches on the plate. See, there it is again, out over the plate. And he doesn't have that same swing that we've talked about with Jordan. See where Girardi's set up? Everything has been out there 90% of the time. Cohn made a mistake in his second at bat, but he wasn't able to hit the ball out of the ballpark. Actually, it was his first at bat. There it is again.
A little number charged by Brocious. Quick throw. Got it.
What happens is you have teams that have scouts following you for the last couple of weeks of the season to see which pitches you're handling best. Nice play here by Brocious. And I talked to Gene Michaels before the ballgame. He said they had 2 guys on each team, not 1. They had 2. So that, if someone else, saw something different than he did, they were able to combine their knowledge and come up with a good scouting report. And I'd have to say that looking at the way the Yankees pitchers have pitched, not only in this, but in the division and the LCS, and now the World Series, I think their scouting reports are very good. They know exactly where to attack each hitter.
It's one thing to have good scouting reports, and obviously the Yankees do.
Right.
It's another thing to have a pitching staff that can pitch to those reports.
Exactly. And I think the one thing that the Braves have been able to do their entire career is pitch to hitters' weaknesses. Whether that be off-speed pitches or sinkers or whatever, they've been able to vary their speeds and go to a hitter's weakness. But so far in this series, it's, you know, the Yankees have done a better job at that.
1-2 pitch. This is the inside corner. 2-2 to Klesko.
For instance, we saw Klesko hit the home run off 2 breaking balls. All they're throwing him now is fastballs in and breaking balls in off the plate.
Stanton in the Yankee bullpen, just in case things get completely out of hand here. Klesko hits one in the air to right. O'Neill is there to take it.
Fastball in on his 5th again.
While we have a chance, this play of the game is brought to you by Merrill Lynch. There's a new way to work with Merrill Lynch, and that's any way you want. This is the hit by Paul O'Neill off a 1-2 curveball from Kevin Millwood that produced the game's first run. The first 3 Yankees all singled. That made it 1-0. By the time the top half of the first was over, it was 3-0, and it's only gotten worse for Millwood and the Braves since. A ball to Lockhart. Mendoza an out away from completing a 2-inning stint, but obviously it was not a save situation. A 7-0 game when he entered. The carnage was over by the top of the 5th. The Yankees haven't scored since then. 3 in the first, 2 in the third, 1 in both the 4th and 5th for a 7-0 lead. 3-0. Lockhart's 0 for 2 with a walk. Obviously taking all away and might be taking another one here on 3-1. Full count. A base hit would allow the Braves to avoid the shutout.
I assume those are Yankee fans standing up with 2 strikes.
Well, there's some very faint-hearted tomahawk chopping going on, but not much at this stage. This is too good a team to go this quietly. We'll see what happens when we get to the Bronx. He walks. See what Torrey has in mind here. Maybe just late dinner reservations. Just checking the lineup card. Here's Greg Myers. He's walked, singled, and fly to center. Cuts and misses.
We talked to Joe Torre about the difference in managing, you know, in the National League as compared to managing in an American League ballpark with the DH. And he was very open and honest with us. He basically said that he enjoyed National League baseball better and that it was a better brand of baseball.
Bobby Cox feels the same way.
And there's Joe telling Mendoza, get on top. So he's not on top right there. And you see the movement of his ball is a little different. It's kind of flat. It's tailing a little bit, but it's flat. Now watch where he throws this from. See, that's 3/4, not even a good 3/4. And they say he's most effective when he gets on top of his sinker.
Myers hits it right through the wickets. Into center field, and produces a run.
And Joe is not happy because he's not getting on top. Now watch this pitch. See where he throws it from? He drops down, and that's more 3/4 motion. And he wants him to get a little bit more on top, but that ball there is smashed right back through the middle. When he first came in, we saw a lot of top ground balls. Now you see them hitting a few hard ground balls.
So Joe goes to the bullpen, and we go to commercial.
Not as much movement or sink action on his fastball, sinking action on his fastball.
Hard to find something to be upset about when you're about to go ahead 2-0 in the series and you lead 7-1 in the ninth, but Torrey has found something that's less than perfect. So he brings in Jeff Nelson. Faced a couple of hitters in the 8th inning last night. Nelson wears number 43 because that's the number of his relief pitching idol, Dennis Eckersley, who for a long, long time was the premier reliever in the American League with the Oakland A's. So Mendoza might be the only glum New York Yankee tonight.
Well, but he'll get over it because, you know, all he's concerned with is the team winning. He would have rather have been able to do the job for the team, but, you know, he knows that he's going to get another opportunity to pitch in the World Series. And he knows that he did a great job in the LCS for the Yankees. He helped them get here to the World Series.
Pitcher's spot on the order is due. It's the 8th slot. There's David Cone. Pitched the first 7 and yielded only 1 hit. He's going to get his 2nd career World Series victory against no defeats. So the pitcher's spot is due, and Brett Boone, who sat out tonight's game, with Keith Lockhart taking his place at 2nd, as Bobby Cox made some changes in his lineup in an unsuccessful attempt to find some runs in that bat rack somewhere. So Boone's the pinch hitter with 2 outs in the 9th. Ball 1 from Nelson.
And a lot of people will look at the lineup that Bobby Cox put out there. He made some changes at short, 2nd. I really think that you have a 7-game series. You have time to try something to jumpstart your ball club. I think he'll go back to his normal lineup on Tuesday in New York. But I really feel that what he did today was trying to jumpstart this team because they had not scored a lot of runs even in the New York series. They had not been producing a lot of runs. So he just wanted to try something with some guys that have been swinging the bat pretty well. Guillen had gotten some key hits for him. Lockhart had swung the bat well, both coming off the bench. So he said, well, I'm going to give them a shot at playing in a ball game and give them 4 at-bats.
And with the left-hander Andy Pettitte going for New York, you put Boone back in, right-handed bat. Weiss is a switch hitter. They might use their other shortstop, Jose Hernandez, as a right-handed designated hitter in Game 3. That's in there, 2-2. There's Hernandez. Not called upon tonight. And the 2-2 pitch. And Boone rips it down the left field line. It's a fair ball. Extra bases in the corner. It's 7-2, and runners are at 2nd and 3rd. The Braves had 2 hits through 8. They have 3 hits in the ninth.
Well, it may be too late for this ball game, but at least they're building some confidence to know that they can score some runs. This is breaking ball that Boone rips down the left field line and goes into the corner.
And the diehards who remain are making some noise. Otis Nixon had an infield single in the 8th. That's his only at-bat to this point. And Otis spins away.
And if you're the Braves, all you want to do is make sure you give the Yankees a good finish here and give them something to think about when you go to New York.
He takes a strike. Rivera is just a spectator, hands on hips, and the same could be said of Mike Stanton, the lefty. Hit sharply to short. Jeter's up with it. And that's the way game 2 ends in Atlanta. Two runs in the bottom of the ninth for the Braves. Too little, too late. 2-0 New York in the series.
Of course, the Yankees are comfortable going back to New York with a 2-0 series lead, but I think the Braves will find out what they're made of. They'll go to New York on Tuesday, and I expect them to come out with a different attitude, a different approach. I think they're going to have to make some adjustments to what they've seen the Yankees pitchers do to them.
And tonight's Chevrolet player of the game is David Cone. So now the Braves will look to do the very thing the Yankees did to them 3 Octobers ago. And now for some housekeeping. The final score once again, the Yankees 7 and the Braves 2. Tuesday night at 8 Eastern, we're in the Bronx to bring you World Series Game 3 with Andy Pettitte going for New York and Tom Glavine scheduled to pitch for the Braves. A look back here at some of the ceremony before the game honoring the All-Century team. So coming up next on most of these NBC stations, it's your late local news. For those of you who'd like to continue with our World Series coverage, tune to CNBC right now for the post-game report. For Joe Morgan, Jim Gray, and Craig Sager, I'm Bob Costas. This is NBC, home of the 1999 World Series. And from Atlanta, Georgia, good night, everybody.